so happy that you could join us.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to be here. I'm sorry. I had to put up the that Doc Bitecofer Yahoo account as a way to contact me, and then I never told people when I stopped. So that's that's not cool.
You've been busy, you're right. I mean, let's be honest. You've been super busy.
So like I wasn't understanding why she was like, oh, I'm going to give you another chance to respond. And I'm like, I've never even heard of you, lady, but yeah, I'll come to your thing,
This is awesome. Well, let me contextualize this conversation a little bit, and then I have so many questions to ask you. So as our audience members know, we are talking about love and democracy, and how do we form a democracy that is really democracy that we deserve, one that is where everybody is equal and fair for everyone. And in order to really have that conversation, I feel like it's important for us to look back at really where did we come from, how did we get here, and obviously that brings up 2020. And so before I ask my questions, I want to just introduce everybody to you, because I really am a girl. I really do have a girl crush on you, and I've been kind of stalking you. And
that's all right. I welcome crushes of all sorts, and it can be any type, especially because I need them to offset like all the hate I get. I get a lot of hate. I mean, some of it I talk about, like the election Twitter boys and all of that. A lot of it is like more scary types of hate, like neo-Nazis hunting me down. And I don't talk about them on Twitter and stuff because that's what they want me to do. They want me to tell you guys about, them, the things that they're doing to me, so that they can, get value out of that. So it's very important. I would urge anybody who ever is taunted by a hate group or by Republicans or whoever's doing that stuff. I make a rare exception, like I did on Saturday night, I think, or Thursday night when I think it was probably some high school kid or something that he woke me up in the middle of the night with I'm doxing you. I think like he's actually using the word dox wrong, but he got my cell phone from the internet. Apparently it's floating out there, and he said, "Are you Rachel of the Lincoln Project?" A lot of people think I'm a Republican. And I was like, what? Because I was asleep, and then he said, "I'm doxing you. You deserve to get doxed." And then like he had called like 5 times in a row before I answered the phone. And I realized that his phone number was showing up. Like the first 3 times it showed up restricted, but something went wrong after that, and it was showing up his phone number. So I was like, well, I think I'll just teach this one a lesson,
Yeah. Well, Rachel, let's talk about that then. What were the dynamics, the trends, the cycles? What were those things around 2020?
So when we talk about 2020, I'm kind of shocked that like no one has noticed this yet, right? That in 2019 in July, I laid out a forecast that argued Democrats are going to win the election in 2020. Come fall, we're going to be looking at an election cycle where the conversation is, they are really looking dominant in the Midwest, back in that blue wall area. That's because people don't understand what happened in the Midwest the first time. Wasn't really a revolution. I'm so sorry, but I'm stuck at home. Like
I love it. We love kiddos.
So people don't really understand the first time what happened in the Midwest wasn't really like a revolution to Donald Trump. I mean, in the 2-party vote share, he doesn't crack 50%. Other than in Iowa and Ohio, which are 2 states that are more like Missouri and Indiana in their composition, and as political scientists that study polarization and realignment understand, those are states that are realigning to the right, that have low levels of college education, and are more apt to be moving towards that political right. And, but in the other states, it wasn't a story of him having this dominant election cycle. It was about Democrats, that Democratic coalition, which also includes independents that vote Democratic when they show up, shooting itself in the foot and not showing up or showing up and voting these, these protest ballots for either writing in Sanders or Jill Stein or Gary Johnson because he smokes pot and so do they, or, whatever, right? And so we're really talking about a profound misunderstanding of what happened in 2016 by, a narrative driven by the other analysts who are all these, white men, and they are focused on this one narrative. Not to say that that's not a narrative, it's a narrative, but it's a narrative that I and, Alan Abramowitz and other people in my, political science community understand to be something that is predictable and part of a long-term pattern, and not something that was some like, oh my God, Donald Trump caused this massive realignment of non-college educated white people having this populist nativist revolution. It's like, no, working class whites are going the other way, and they're going to continue to do that. And of course, Joe Biden was convinced he was going to be Scranton Joe, and he was not getting political advice from me. He was getting political advice from people who were telling him, oh yeah, no, Trump's got this disaffected electorate, and the ones that you see on TV are reflective of the Republican Party writ large, and they're embarrassed about this guy, and you're going to be able to pull up, probably a better outperform Clinton in Scranton and Western PA, and there's me on the other side saying, no, actually, he's probably not, and the turnout amongst the Republican Party's share of the white electorate is going to be robust, right? And
so tell me about that. Like, what happened on November 3rd, right? Like, what do the election results tell us, Rachel, about the country now?
Yeah. So it tells us exactly as I predicted 16 months ago, which is that it was an election cycle. It was not about the old school pre-polarized era construct of, we're going to have this hearts and minds debate, about this big group of independents or swing voters, and the better argument is going to win, right? That's not what happened. That's not what's going on out there, right? Instead, it was a battle of coalitions, a battle of the bases is how I originally came out of the gate phrasing it, but I realized that base is a bad way to say it because that makes people think of a certain thing. And they might think of progressives if they come from that community, or they might think of black voters if they come from that community. And so I've changed my language since my New York Times op-ed 2 years ago, right? That really initially launched the forecast. And now I call it coalition because I want people to understand it's the Democratic coalition surging their turnout, learning that lesson from 2016 that if they don't vote, they'll lose, right? And it's women, especially college-educated women, especially white college-educated women. I don't know, actually. It'll be interesting to see if white college-educated women have a performance difference compared to women of color with college degrees. And we just can't know that until we have all the data to look. And then Latino, followed by Asian voters, actually followed by Asian voters, followed by Latino voters, followed by black voters, was what had the turnout surges in the 2018 midterms, which was what my analysis focused on, the voter file, not on survey data, right? Hard data, voter file data. So like this idea that black voters did not represent in 2020 is totally nuts, okay? They did not represent the largest component of this winning coalition. They were never going to do that, and I don't know like why anyone would have expected that, certainly not if they were reading my research. My research was always clear. This Dem coalition is going to surge their turnout. The surge is going to be biggest in the suburbs. The 2016 convo was about rural America. The 2020 convo is going to be about suburban America, and it's going to be about a reshaping of the suburbs through Dem coalition turnout there. And like Nate Cohen's got this, like he's got a Trumpian view of the suburbs where it's all white people, right? But it's not. It's very, very diverse because of gentrification in the cities, actually.
Yes.
White people have flocked back to the cities, right?
Yes.
So actually both in the cities and the suburbs, we have more diversity. It's just, more white people in the cities, more people of color in the suburbs, right? And so, almost everything that I said in that presidential forecast 16 months ago has come to pass. Now, in the Congress map, me and everybody else were wrong, right? But the way and the reason that we're wrong, the conversation that they're trying to misdirect the country to cover up the wrongness of the argument of persuasion, which is what they have, this commitment to keeping this persuasion argument alive. And frankly, it's already cost Democrats the ability to win on the redistricting and reapportionment cycle. So, to continue to try to not just say, okay, you know what, we have to reassess now, like this argument about, obviously it's turnout and coalitional, turnout changing the composition of the electorates that are playing a big, big role in election outcomes. It's not to say that there is not a swing vote. Pure independents swing their vote choice. So but they aren't careful about that language when they make these analysis of, you read Cohen's piece, you read David Shore's piece, they hide what they're talking about and make it sound more expansive on who's being persuaded. But who's being persuaded, to be clear, and I know when I get this final data from the gold standard survey data that I can use to quantify this, we're going to see that the people that were swinging vote choice are pure independents, not leaning independents, right? Not pure. We're talking about people who do not say after they're prompted, I lean to the Republican Party, right? We're talking about pure independents. And that's because, and it was more robust even than it would have been, I think, for the Biden race at least, because of the COVID mismanagement. But where Biden wins and the congressional races go wrong, guys, to understand why the negative partisanship forecast basically hits it dead on, but the Congress stuff doesn't happen, is because Biden's campaign manager number one resists the urge to go full Scranton Joe, right? Some of her strategy, she calls it mo-suasion, goes into lower propensity Democratic coalitional turnout and making sure that ultimately their electorate has, competes with the Republican turnout, right? So if that had not happened, Biden would not have lost, okay? Or not have won, period, okay? If you don't have percent Democrat equal or close to percent Republican, you're going to lose, right? My guess is when we get this voter file data, though, it's not going to be, certainly Democrats are not going to outperform Republicans on turnout. I think we're going to see exactly what I saw in that 2018 analysis. We're going to see Democrats trail Republicans in percent proportional to their registration of turnout, because Republicans are going to have done a better job getting their voters to the polls again. And that is a product of, the bulk of the Democratic campaign resource and strategy going to trying to win the argument amongst independents, and that argument not being tailored only to pure independents. Admittedly, not easy to find them stratified out of a voter file to find out who's truly persuadable. I'm trying to find just pure independents. It's not the easiest thing to suss out, right? But if you're my assumption is if you're running a Democratic campaign, the way that DNC thinks about things as of now is that you don't need to suss that out. You should go talk to these right-leaning independents and try to get them to convert, even though it does not work, okay? And my guess is right now, what they have done in this cycle for the congressional maps is they have overinvested in that and underinvested in turning out voters of color, young voters, college educated women, single women in particular, because once women marry, regrettably, they seem to absorb their husband's political attitudes, and men are much more likely to be Republican than women are. So you really want to turn out single women voters as much as you possibly can, right?
Yeah, I love what you just said, Rachel, because it's really about focusing on, your community. And so I wanted to ask you, if we're having this conversation about what is the democracy we deserve, and given your perspective and your insights, Rachel, how do we form that democracy, that the one that does protect the most vulnerable among us, the one that does have equality and fairness for everyone, not just those that are wealthy and connected?
You have to win elections and have political power, period. Okay. Because before you can do anything else, you have to be the people that are enacting policies and forming the legislative agenda, right? Why are people in the bottom 50% going to have the crappiest Christmas that they have ever had, probably since the Great Depression? Is because Republicans control the Senate right now, and Donald Trump controls the White House, right? Trump is easier to work with, frankly, than McConnell in the Senate. Trump would have been happy to sign off on a $1,600 stimulus check and would have given people $600 unemployment bonuses if Nancy Pelosi could have gotten that through the Senate, okay? Because his name was going to go on the check, and the Democrats are inept. So it's not like they were going to think to run ads to tell voters, hey, that $600 a week bonus, unemployment bonus that's keeping you in the middle class and not dropping you down to working class world, that's coming from us, right? It might have Donald Trump's name on it, but we're the ones that gave it to you, right? Like, because they don't do that shit. I mean, that's going to, all I can say without giving things away is, watch the space to steal something from the other Rachel, because that's coming to a change.